Namaste. We say this as a acknowledgement, usually at the end of practice. And I like to just redefine it every once in a while, remind us of its definition. And actually, the other day I came across a slightly different version than what I've often said. And I like it because it has some wonderful words included. So I wanted to read it to you today. It says, I honor the place in you in which the entire universe dwells. I honor the place in you which is of love, of truth, of light, of peace. When you are in that place in you, and I'm in that place in me, we are as one. Namaste. It's just a wonderful greeting and acknowledgement, a recognition of the kind of best, or I've often said sort of divine part of each of us, and a recognition that when we dwell in that part of ourselves, that we are one with others. We are a part of wholeness. And that's really the practice of yoga, is that seeking to intertwine body, mind, spirit to create wholeness, non-striving, non-harming, non-separation, and so on. So it's just a wonderful mantra, namaste, and that's why I always close practice with it. And I just want to remind us of at least this one definition of it. And you can, of course, play with the words and make them your own. But it's again, a wonderful thing, even if you don't say it out loud to other people. But if you're struggling with like frustration and stress and you're thinking, oh, that person drives me crazy, to be able to remember that there is a part of them that if they were in their place of light and love and truth and peace, that you would be able to connect instead of feel disconnected. So it's just again, I think, to help our own systems come out of stress and being, fractured. So on our mat today, as we come into a flow practice, I ask you to pay particular attention to the places where you move out of wholeness, perhaps into striving. The point of flow is not, in fact, to perform some sort of amazing feat where you never stop or you do everything that's offered. One of the main points of flow I want to point out is that when we're moving from posture to posture, which is flow, that we're often allowing movement in our spinal column that doesn't show up otherwise in just individual postures. So you get this undulation and so on, and that the spinal column is our source of life force moving up and down, speaking to all of our nerve fibers that innervate and move out to our muscles and so on. So the most important thing when we're in flow is that we really are in a place of extension and hopefully even a kind of joyfulness of doing it. So if you notice that you're too short of breath or that you're kind of hiking up your shoulders, please, take a break or find a different posture or wait part of it out. Make it easier. I often offer options of going down to your knees, for example. And these would be things that would give you a great chance to be in flow, but not move out of the wholeness. That's the whole point. As always, I'll offer you little resting moments and pauses. And a fun thing to practice in those few moments is just how fully can you let go, to notice, all your muscles that are maybe preparing for what is probably that next posture. See if you can just give in. Thank you so much for coming to the mat today. Namaste. I'm going to begin with us in ragdoll. It's a wonderful chance to let gravity take a hold of the spine, release a little pressure. So I'm taking the feet today actually a little wider than my hips, just to give some room for side to side movement. Once we're there, I'm going to simply bend the knees and drape my body over my legs. And I might have my hands just dangling on the floor if you're that far. Some people enjoy having the arms hand wrapped around the bicep. And when you're ready, I'm going to ask you to simply start moving side to side like a gentle swaying tree. Begin to tune into your breath, which Breathing deeply in this position can be a little bit of a challenge. So we're going to start to add a movement that'll help in a moment. But I'm going to ask you for right now, see if you can cultivate deep breath into the belly, which should also bring it into your back. Let the head hang with gravity. Eyes are closed. Deep, slow breath through the nose if you can, otherwise through the mouth. Add ujjayi, throat contraction, and tune into that soft wave sound, wind sound of your breath. And when you're ready to add a little movement, inhaling, we're just going to bring the hands to the shins and extend halfway, tailbone to crown. Exhaling, belly to spine, refold. Get limp. Is there more? Inhaling when it comes, breath initiating, extend. Exhaling, fold. Now remember, your feet can be wider. You can bring them back in a little if that feels better. Notice the stretch that it gives to your hamstrings. We'd like that stretch to be right in the belly of the thigh there at the back, not behind the knee or up into the glute connection. If that's happening, you definitely need to bend your knees. A couple more. Is there more? Is there more? Using this time to connect with breath. Where do you feel it stretching, massaging you? One more round. On your next inhale, drop the butt, root and rise. Big glute squeeze. You might bring the palms together or keep them wide. Good. Exhaling, prayer hands. Bringing our arms down into our jet airplane arms as I think of it, palms straight forward, upper arms squeezing in towards the body, neck is soft. Stay with me here a moment and feel the breath moving this shape. It is not static even though it's engaged. Set your gaze in that soft drishti gaze. It's a focused point of contact, in this case straight ahead. Really flare those ribs with breath. Good. And on your next inhale, sweep the arms up again. Glutes squeeze forward, finding power through the whole body to the middle fingers. Exhaling, bring the hands behind for Yoga Mudra. Intertwine and draw down. Good. Now, if it would feel good in your body, add that little forward fold. So take the feet apart and fold. Remember, you can twist a little right and left and adding deep breath to these shapes. And as you're ready, inhale, root and rise, big glute squeeze, and prayer hands. Pause, hoping that some of that arm movement is creating some wonderful sensation through the shoulders and so on. Okay, let's roll out our wrists and ankles. We ask a lot of them in our yoga practice and life, of course. We can come into prayer hands, and without letting your shoulders raise, come into a nice reverse prayer. I'm going to do a standing hip stretch today to warm up our hips, actually a couple of them. If you'd prefer, come on down to your back body and come into your reclined pigeon. Otherwise, I'm going to just bring my right knee in front and root and rise as I do so. I'm going to grab that foot with my left hand and bring my leg up. And obviously this might not work in your body. You could always use a strap to gather around and lengthen your arms or do reclined pigeon. And then option to sit into that a little bit. So I'm crossing my right ankle to my left thigh. This is making quite a balancing challenge. So again, if you can't enjoy the hip stretch as a result, take a hold of something or do your alternate. Breathe. Marvelous. And come on up. Other side. Bring the knee into the chest. Root and rise. Notice shoulder heads are anchoring, no shrugging. Clasp the foot with your other hand and see if you can draw it towards your chest. I like to do kind of a pulsing motion. It's good upper arm and body work too. And you can kind of go a little side to side, sometimes feels good. And then when you're ready, go ahead and place that ankle on the thigh. So left ankle, right thigh in this case. And how far forward you fold is going to deepen the stretch into that left hip. Find a place that's a good massage. Breathe into it. And slowly rise. And if you're not already sideways on your mat, please do straddle. And we're just going to go right away side to side. So again, if you're doing a laying down version of this, which we did in Monday's practice, in the yoga basics, then you can do kind of more of a half straddle, on your back and holding your feet. So it's kind of fun to just notice there's almost always another way to get the stretch. If all of a sudden in the midst of our practice, you're like, ooh, this one doesn't work for me, find one that does. This going side to side motion is great for helping strengthen, but also release those IT band outside of the leg areas that get so tight. Hold to one side. You might have both hands on the floor. I've got one on the floor, one on my other shin. Just whatever feels comfortable. Making sure that your other foot, the straightening leg, is really rooted. And then if you can, rotate your chest to the sky. So I went to the left with my hips and now I'm rotating my chest left. If it feels appropriate, you might release that other hand to the sky. Again, you might be on the hand, the forearm, and come on down. Other side. So pausing a moment to just notice, is this side different? Do you need to be at a different level, a different version to get a good stretch, but that again is right at that edge. It's intense, but you can breathe into it. You can welcome it. That's our yoga. As you're ready, rotating the chest open towards the wall or sky, maybe adding an arm. And releasing. And come back to center. I'm going to walk my heels in, or my feet in a little bit, excuse me, because I notice my ankle's feeling some stress. So you always want to respond to that. And then actually you do walk yours in for a kind of a cow-cat movement. So hands are flat. Inhaling, butt is dropped, heart drawing forward. Exhaling, rounding the back into your cat back and pushing the earth away. Again, on your hands and knees would be a nice alternate for this. Is there more? This is you, your body, your breath in this moment on the mat. So there's nowhere to get to. Nothing else matters. And if you notice your mind wandering, that's what it does, little monkey mind, just call it back because this is precious stuff. One more. See if you can slow it down even more. Is there more breath? Drawing the shoulder heads down towards the hips. And last cat back. Marvelous. We're going to just rotate and walk our hands to the front of the mat, coming onto the ball of the back foot, and step back into our first downward facing dog. Again, great alternate would be to just go into a table pose and come up to dog from there. So once you've found your roots of those palms, especially the palm part at the base of the thumb and the index finger, really send those hips to the heavens, up and back, and start pedaling. And again, maybe you want to go outside that regular path of motion, feet to the outer edge of the mat or even beyond if they won't slip on your floor. And then please find a still point in your downward facing dog And join me in 3 sighing breaths. You could also do this in child's pose. My vision's directly between the feet. Long inhale. Breathing in through the nose if you can. I'm kind of stuffy today, so I'm having to breathe through my mouth both directions sometimes. Marvelous. And then bring that right foot forward, drop the left knee, and come on up into a nice knee down lunge, pumping. Really exploring. I think of this as kind of WD-40ing the hip joints and all the connections and so on by coming in and out of the edge instead of just holding there. When you are ready, though, hold. Invitation for a back bend, reaching the heart forward and up. Deep breath. Exhaling, bring the hands down inside of the foot if you can. So first of all, if being on your knee is not working, you could come up onto the ball of the back foot. And regardless, if being on your hands is also too hard getting to the floor, you could just stay where we were with the hands up on that right thigh. I'm going to just see if I can bring my left forearm down to the floor. So it's the opposite forearm of the foot that's at the front. And I'm keeping very active through that back leg if it's raised. And I'm going to just check and see if the right forearm can come on down. Now, in my case, it can, but I notice that it makes me kind of lose contact with the inner line of that front foot and kind of go out to the right, and I get it's a little more like protected. That's not what I want. I want to be in a place where I can say hello to the stretch. One more big breath. Good. Coming up onto both hands and release. Step back to your downward facing dog. You can add a sigh anytime. Invitation to our first dog series. So as you come into plank, I strongly encourage knees down for your first round. Check those shoulder heads. Check you've got that nice tailbone tuck. Exhaling chaturanga, elbows in. Can you hold even with the elbows? When you're done, drop to the hips. Inhaling. Anchor through the pelvis and draw the heart forward, cobra. Exhaling, no wings, no shrugs, downward facing dog. You got it. And bring that left foot forward, right knee down lunge. Again, unless being on that knee is bothersome, in which case you're on the ball of the back foot. And pulsing. So feeling your body really starting to wake up with some of this nice slow flow breath and spinal movement, and shoulders and hips getting to go out of their daily path of motion. They're like, thank you. And at some point, holding forward with the hips, inhaling, root and reach. Remember, this is all add-on, right? You could be in prayer hands if you want it. Deep back bend. And exhaling, bring those hands on down and inside of that front foot. And I'm gonna come onto the ball of my back foot because my knee prefers it, but it's just up to you. And see if you can bring the right forearm down. Don't worry if you can't. And if you can even just bend a little bit and kind of do like a little mini push-up, you're gonna enhance that nice stretch into this left hip. Breathe. What treasure have you found? When you are ready to come on out, again, onto the hands and step back, downward facing dog. Good. We're going to go all the way to the floor and hold. So I'm going to go inhaling plank, knees or feet. Exhaling, chest precedes the hips. And then all the way down. And I'm just going to rest. Turn the head to the side. Laying flat on our front is a wonderful place to, in fact, let go of everything, but to also notice our heartbeat against the floor, our abdomen taking in breath. And as you're ready to stir, we'll come into forearm plank. So come onto your forearms, shoulder heads anchoring down, and let's do a knee down version first. Take a nice long inhale. Exhale, keep the knees on the floor and simply tuck the tailbone. And that brings us into our knee down forearm plank. What would it feel like if you walk those elbows forward a little bit? For me, it gives me a good quiver, but no back pain, etc. If your back was already bugging you, don't move your elbows forward and make sure you're tucked in the tailbone, not arched. Hold, breathe, and when you are ready to release, and do this as much as you can with breath. Nice inhale, exhaling, release. Inhaling, cobra, and then press onto the tops of the feet for upward facing dog. Exhaling, downward facing dog. All right, find your stable dog. Deep breath. Make sure, remember that both arms are pushed straight. The legs never have to be straight. But as you now take your right leg slowly flying, try not to let any of that stability change. Pause, notice. Then as you're ready, bend that right knee and see if you can rotate a little open through the right hip towards the right wall. Don't let that floor foot change or rotate. One more deep breath, pressing the chest towards that left thigh. Exhaling, slowly bring that right foot forward and pause if you can with your hands on the floor. I want you to check that your foot's all the way into your knee and that you're able to come up with stability. So rotating left hip bone back, right hip bone forward, inhaling into your crescent lunge. Remember, we can be wherever we'd like with arms, including having them in steady movement. For now, I'm going to take my right arm up, left arm down, and I'm going to imagine there's a heavy bucket in my left arm, and it's just bringing me a little to the side. And I'm going to switch, left arm up, right arm down, heavy bucket in my right hand, bringing me a little to the side. Both arms up, opportunity for a back bend. Exhaling, release. Step back, try to reduce the swoosh. As we say, lift that foot. Marvelous. Coming to the floor again through plank and chaturanga. So inhaling plank. Neck is soft, nice and strong. Exhaling chaturanga. Slow, slow, all the way to the floor. Turn your head to the other side. And practice getting really soft. Nothing to prepare for. You're here on the mat. You did it, and you're breathing. When you feel energized, let a nice inhale bring you up for forearm plank one more time. Shoulder heads anchor down. Long inhale. And maybe you're doing knee down plank again, forearm plank, or curling the toes under and then tucking the tailbone as you press those thigh bones towards the sky. Same principle. We'd love to find a quiver without any pain. So maybe you're going to walk your elbows a little bit forward. Breathing. Feeling that strong core of yours. The quiver does not mean you're weak. It just means we're actually waking stuff up. So you're already strong. You're here. Breathe. One more long breath. Slow, deep and wide. And then releasing. Plant the hands, preparing for cobra upward dog again. Inhaling cobra. Or if you'd like, upward facing dog. Remember, you can be on the tops of the feet or balls. And exhaling, downward facing dog. Stabilize, center, drishti gaze. So I'm looking directly between my 2 feet. And I'm going to slowly take the left leg flying, noticing if I've lost any stability. If so, bring your foot back and try again. Bend that left knee and open up the hip. Rotating open. Again, check particularly the right arm here, that I'm not kind of shrugging and coming forward or bending that elbow. One more deep breath. You might even rotate your chest a little to the left. And exhaling, neutral the hips and bring that left foot forward. Good. Pause. Again, make sure that that foot's all the way beneath the knee. So if you've got to grab it and scooch it, however you want to do that. Right hip bone forward, left hip bone back. And root and rise. And again, I'm going to add my little carrying of a heavy bucket that you could have your arms wherever you'd like. And so when you're ready, take one arm up, one arm down. Breathe. Let that heavy bucket draw you into a little bit of a side stretch. Nice and slow breath, initiating motion, telling the body that you are whole, you're strong, and that any challenges here are on purpose and fun. And come on back. Last breath, root and reach up through the heart if you'd like. And exhaling, reduce the swoosh, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, exhale, sigh. We're going to be coming onto our back in a moment, but I'm going to toss a little dog series in here on the way. Inhaling, plank. Pause and make sure those hands really are under your shoulders. Exhaling, chaturanga, chest proceeds. Inhaling, either cobra or upward facing dog. And exhaling, downward facing dog. And I'm going to come to seated in kind of a fun way. If you've never tried it before, you might want to watch it first and then try it. You're going to bend your knees and look forward, kind of directly in front of where the hands would meet if they were making a triangle. And then I'm going to hop onto my butt cross-legged. And I'm going to make sure I do that by trying to think up through the hips. So I'm going to start by practicing like so. I'm pushing off. And then I'm going to try and slowly lower myself. I remember the first couple times I tried this, it was not so graceful, and I hurt my toe. But it can be very fun, and if you do that little hop thing first, it really, really helps. All right, we're going to come into bridge pose. So please come on down to your back body. Plant those feet. Plant those arms however you'd like to have them. Shoulder heads working underneath you. Long inhale. Exhaling, press up as you root down through the upper arms and into the earth with your feet. And I really like pulsing kind of in and out of the upper edge of the pose. I find I get a lot of nice muscular release through the hips. When you feel ready to hold, join me in leg extension. And if your feet are feeling kind of wide, you'll want to bring them in a little bit to slowly, hopefully gracefully, extend one leg. If you feel a big hip drop, then start with just lifting one foot at a time. So you just lift it and kind of hover off the earth. But the hands on the hip bones are helpful as kind of a awareness tool. Breathing. And slowly come on down. Good. Bring those knees to belly. We're going to come into happy baby. I know you're used to doing that at the beginning of class if we do it. This is a nice lead into our next pose as well. So, excuse me, you can grab the outside of the feet, the ankles, use a strap, or you can also grab the big toe, but the middle and index finger sliding between and drawing down. We're most interested in drawing the knees towards the floor and the shoulder heads down and then the tailbone tilting down. Deep, deep breath. Good. And what would it feel like if you tried to straighten the legs? And you can see that I can't today in this position with my hands as they are, and that's all right. I want to explore that here laying down before I try to do it in any other position. So again, remember, it doesn't matter if you actually ever get your legs straight, but we want integrity. We don't want to be shrugging or striving. Good. Go ahead and bring those legs in. And when you're ready, we'll just spinal rock up to seated. I wanted to toss in a fun pose we haven't done for a little while. It's a good heat builder. It's a good one to make sure you really are breathing into. So I'm going to just first take a hold of my left foot with my left hand, either at the big toe or the ankle or what have you. I find it helps if you can get a good grip and the ankle's a little tough. And I'm just going to practice bringing that foot back. Good. And I'm going to do the same thing with the right. Good. And now I'm going to see if I can grip both big toes with the fingers, shoulder heads anchoring down. And I'm going to just kind of walk those heels back towards me. And the key piece with all of this is that at no point am I slumping. So I want to make sure I've got a powerful root and reach down through the sit bones, open through the heart. If this is all just too much or not an option, sitting like this as an alternate would be great. And you could simply work on releasing your feet for some of the balance and core work. Otherwise, right here, when you're ready, see if you can lift those feet off the floor so you're kind of a seated happy baby, drawing the knees back. If you're quivering, that's great. It usually means that your body is, working on the balance. Again, you don't want to be back here on the tailbone and slouching. So when you're ready, keep reaching that heart up towards where the ceiling and the wall meet. But when you're ready, start sending your heels out and up. And again, it doesn't matter if the legs ever get straight. Breathe. Soft tongue, soft gaze. And when you are ready to release, you might bring those legs, cross them in front of you, plant the hands, and you could either step back or jump back to your downward facing dog. So anchor those shoulder heads, come into a nice cat back for core strength, and go. Marvelous. Inhaling to your plank. Exhaling chaturanga. Inhaling either cobra or upward facing dog. Exhaling child's pose, no wings, no shrugs, and sit back. So maybe bring the big toes together, but let the knees be nice and wide. And initially inviting you to just have those arms relaxed and comfortable. And if this pose isn't comfortable for you at all, sometimes putting a block under the forehead can help, or walking the arms wider. Or if your knees, of course, don't love it, then ragdoll is a good alternate. Nice resting pose and stretch for the back. Deep, abiding breath, belly and low back. Imagining that you're going to be here for a really long time. Inviting you now in an active version of the pose by tenting the fingertips and walking them forward away from the tailbone. Walking, 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 and now hold and breathe here. Deep, abiding breath. Never cut the breath short or you miss the stretch. I like to say that the breath is the change agent. Otherwise, everything just stays the same. And so now letting go of the arms, relax. Good. And tucking the tailbone always to come up out of that pose. Good. We're going to come into our gate pose. So stand that left foot at the back, 90 degrees. Right butt cheek squeezes towards the left. And opening on up into your gate pose. So again, we always have options here, right? We can try and lift the floor hand, the leg. We can come into a side arm plank. You got all kinds of stuff you can add. One of the things that I like to add here is actually a reach of the top arm towards the wall in front or above my head, so that I get that lateral stretch that we often only really get in warrior poses. Exhaling, release. Plant that right foot at the back. Make sure you're squeezing the left butt cheek towards the right edge of the mat. And again, any little add-ons or play that call to you today. And at some point, consider reaching that right arm towards the wall above your head, beyond your head. Inhaling cow, exhaling cat. It's always a great flow to go into cow-cat as a way of releasing the spine. That movement from one to the other is just wonderful. One more. And we're going to take it right into downward facing dog. I'm going to slowly walk my hands back towards the feet, really pushing, pushing, pushing one at a time. Hang out in ragdoll for a breath or two until you are ready. Inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands. We're going to go sideways on our mat again in straddle. So taking it nice and wide, maybe a little wider than before. Maybe things have warmed up. I hope so. And begin taking it side to side. And I'm going to add some arm movement here. So this is some nice cardio, also really good for core. And you just want to make sure that you feel very happy and safe in your knees and ankles before you do any add-ons. But begin reaching one arm across and the other arm is kind of back counter reaching. I kind of think of some combination of slow rollerblading or skate skiing when I'm doing this. And you can match or marry this with the breath or not. The movements don't have to be paired in any particular way, but breathing. Slow, deep, powerful. A few more, maybe taking it down. And then hold. I'm going to bring my feet in a little bit to just comfortably hang, kind of a rag doll in straddle. Invitation for yoga mudra. And again, if you have a hard time getting those arms straight, getting the shoulder heads to rotate back, then you definitely want to grab a scarf or a sock or a belt or something. Letting breath take space. Again, the only interesting stuff really happens when the breath is involved. And slowly release. Nice deep breath. We're going to go straight into another round of dog series from here. If you're deciding like, hey, I need a break and you're going to come up, just remember, come up nice and slow. It's a big shift after you've been downward like this. So when you're ready, slowly walk to the front of the mat, the hands, and step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, exhale, sigh. Press those heels towards the floor. Inhaling to your plank, thigh bones towards the sky. Neck is soft. Exhaling, chaturanga, elbows bent. Inhaling, either cobra on the balls of the feet, or you can always come onto the tops if you're comfortable with that. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Inhale, exhale, sigh. All right, I'm going to take us into our last little flow of the day, our warrior flow, warrior series. If you prefer to come from mountain, standing crane, go for it. Just step back into crescent lunge. We're going to take our right leg flying again. Open up that right hip. So really reach that right knee high, high, high. Send the chest towards that left knee or a little towards the right edge of the mat if you'd like. You can even kind of look under your right armpit and then neutral it slowly. Plant that right foot flat and then get your left foot flat in your warrior one if you can. If that's uncomfortable, stay on the ball of the foot. Inhaling, root and rise. Pause. Settle. Ground. Again, you might be in prayer hands. Another long inhale. And breath filled on an exhale, slowly sweeping open to your Virabhadrasana 2. So back foot now rotates to 90 degrees. Thighs are rotating away from one another. And we're reaching out from the heart through the middle fingers, perhaps in platter hands. Just a light connection to the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth. Making this organic, it's never static. One more full breath. Inhaling, reaching up through that right arm, down through the left. Exhaling, lateral stretch. So you're kind of cartwheeling it, elbow to thigh. Left arm now reaching out over the head again. Good. Invitation to briefly come into triangle leg here. So if you need to come all the way back up, you can. Otherwise, you might simply straighten that front leg and slide the right hand down a little towards the floor. And I always take my head where there's the least tension for the neck. Inhaling on up and exhaling, step back. Inhale, exhale, sigh. You can always throw in another dog series here if you want, but that was our last one that I'm doing as a group. Take that left leg flying. Pause. Get stable. Open up the hip. Check your arms. They're both straight and pushing. And then see if you can get that left knee a little higher, and then maybe rotating to look under your left armpit. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Actually get to see the world from a different angle. Deep breath. And then slowly neutral. Make sure you're in your core. Bring that left foot forward. Right foot comes flat, warrior, warrior one. So it's just, if the left foot's noon, the right foot's pointing at maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock at the most. And come on up. And again, you might be in prayer hands, yoga mudra. Notice breath, heart rate. A powerful combination here of strength and peace. The strong foundation of warriors lets us move into the world with an energy of love and light and peace and truth. One more long inhale and exhaling, warrior two, Virabhadrasana 2. And you'll find if you're going from warrior 1 to warrior 2 versus crescent lunge to 2, you usually have to deepen your stance in order to get to your best edge. Soft tongue, abiding breath. Strength and stability, but again, not stiffness. We are rooted and stable and also very resilient. Inhaling straight up through that left arm and exhaling forward to your lateral stretch for starting point. And then if you'd like to come into triangle, I usually would bring that right hand back up to the sky or to the hip to be able to adjust into that left leg straightening. And as you are ready, come on up and rotate out. Downward facing dog. We're going to come all the way to our belly for pre-bow bow. Love up that front of the body. Inhaling plank. Exhaling chaturanga all the way to the floor and get soft. It's fun to notice how almost relaxed and satisfied we feel and our body feels after it does good work. When you're ready to move on, we're going to anchor the pelvis, reach back for the ankles for pre-bow bow. Once you've got a hold of them, remember to bring the thighs back towards each other as if you're squeezing a block. Let the shoulder heads anchor. And pre-bow is just with the forehead on the floor, squeezing the glutes and getting a stretch into the quads. You might feel it around the knees, up into the hips. If appropriate in your body, come into a few bow with breath. See if with each one there's a greater blossoming. And release. Turn your head to the other side. If you feel so relaxed, you just don't ever want to go anywhere. You don't have to. But I'm going to press back to child's pose. No wings, no shrugs. Getting that back, what feels like often a really great counter stretch. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my block for our wonderful restorative posture. So you'll simply come on down to your back body and lift the hips, and you're going to place the block under that sacral triangle so it's right at the top of the crack of the butt. And I always give my weight to the block first when I'm still on my feet, like so. And then I sometimes like to experiment. If that feels good, I'm not having any pain, nothing icky, then I'm just going to see if I can get that deeper stretch for the front body. And this position with the legs extended, they're just relaxed. I'm not trying to flex the feet or anything, but offers a wonderful opportunity for stretch down into the psoas muscle that connects right into the inside of the hip bones there, and it actually travels all the way through to the back of the body up at the kind of mid upper spine there. So it's really a fantastic stretch for opening this space, and especially if you now apply very willful breath, big Buddha belly. Pressing the breath all the way down into the pelvis. And I usually only stay here, half a dozen breaths, certainly not for many, many minutes on end, and then come on off the support. You're going to now come into your resting shape. If you feel that you were already there in your corpse pose, please stay and just let yourself be heavy. It's a wonderful gift if you get the message from the body of settledness, of no desire to move anywhere, to do anything. And you listen to that, whether it's here on the mat or maybe it's waking up one morning and you just feel blissfully soft, comfortable, nothing needs adjusting. Those moments are powerful to listen to. And yes, our monkey mind will usually jump in with all kinds of excuses and reasons. And I know especially now with these wonderful long, long days of light around the solstice, it becomes easy to try and be a doer at all ends of the spectrum. But I encourage you, find moments of softening, of non-doing, becoming a beer instead of a doer. So when you're ready to find your final shape, give in to gravity, close the eyes, let go of all breath control. Just observe it gently rising and settling in the body. And I'm going to have us here for a few minutes, but again, when the time comes and you hear the singing bowl, if you recognize that you have no desire, no impetus to move, don't. Let gravity take your limbs heavier, drawing them further down and down and down into the mat. And begin to notice the just very subtle, gentle wave movement of the breath. Noticing the moment of pause that exists between the turns of the breath. And you then notice that you are like a small object floating on waves, if you will, kind of gently bobbing, being lifted and settled by the breath. Know that in these moments of softening, that the body is able to heal and renovate. So if you have any particular part of your body or being that's been in challenge, these next few moments, really picture, whether it's through a color or a lightness or sensation, the healing qualities of your practice going directly to those areas. If you have any particular affirmation, mantra, or prayer that you'd like to add, do so. And in a few moments, I'm going to be closing our practice with ohms in the bowl. And this is a beautiful time if you'd like to intentionally send out the gifts of our practice to an individual, to a larger community, to the whole universe, the environment, whatever you'd like. But I always suggest that the very first Om, again, you're just circulating all those gifts of your practice into your own body and being. So if you'd like to join me, please do. Gathering the first long inhale. Offering up the gifts of wholeness, of integration, however else you like to think of your yoga. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace. Namaste.